Welcome back to Beyond Selling, the podcast where we unpack the true drivers of business growth, the strategies, the challenges, and the evolution of modern reputation. Today, we have an incredible guest with us who is a true leader in the communication space with experience spanning media, technology, and digital services. Joining us for an episode we are calling The Art of Influence is Ashish. Ashish is a communications leader with over 18 years of experience in corporate communications and brand strategy. He has driven integrated communication programs that focus on media relations, digital storytelling, executive visibility, and analyst engagement, particularly in the demanding B2B and enterprise space. He has also been recognized as one of the greatest Indian corporate communications leaders in digital communication. Ashish, welcome to Beyond Selling.
Thank you so much, Arinder, for that lovely introduction, and it's a pleasure to be on the show with you.
It's a privilege to have you. Let's dive right in, starting with a look at the bigger picture of our industry. That's the journey and evolution of PR. With almost 2 decades under your belt, you have seen massive shifts. So, my first question to you is how has the role of PR professionals changed over the last 10 years, especially with the rise of social media and digital platforms?
Interesting question to start the podcast with, Arinder. Certainly, I feel very old in the industry, but good to share my perspective as we start this discussion. I would say the the PR as a profession and as a function in the corporate has evolved significantly. I would say there is a significant shift, a tectonic shift, if I may call, is happened from gatekeeping to engagement. So every voice now has an influence, and every voice can now influence the perception of the company, perception of the stakeholders of the company. I would say over the years, the conversations have now shifted from real time storytelling to a very campaign based communication. Earlier, there were structured campaigns that were created, crafted in the boardrooms, in the conference rooms, and then they were executed with the help of PR tools and PR tactics. However, now with the advent of social media, there is a lot of real-time storytelling that is replaced that structured and planned uh, campaign approach. Another key change that I have seen is a lot of data crunching, a lot of numbers analysis is now happening, which did not happen before. I would say data analytics and content strategy are now core skills of PR, which was not there a couple of decades before. And finally, PR is now integrated with marketing, community engagement, customer success, and also overall content strategy, I would say. So that's a huge shift which I've seen over the years. And finally, I would say that the modern PR professional that we have today is no longer a storyteller behind the scenes. The PR professional is now a strategist who is always in the spotlight.
That's a really good point that now the PR professional is no longer a storyteller, but a strategist. Now, on the same lines, I'd ask the second question as a part of our phase one, which is what's the common misconception about PR that you have been trying to debunk throughout your career?
Well, I would have given you a different story over a beer, but on this podcast, I would say PR, a misconception that I've always faced is PR is about spinning a story or increasing the visibility, or it's about spinning a perception about the company or about the individual. That's a very common misconception that I have experienced over the past few years as a PR professional. But you know what, Arinder, the reality is that it's not about spinning or it's not about anything else, but it's more about being credible and being consistent. Because PR always shapes the perception. PR as a function does not spin the story. PR as a profession consistently and transparently gives out credible information so that a positive perception, a credible perception about the company or the executive is built in the market. So, what I would say is PR, if done right, doesn't really manipulate the perception, it earns it. The PR as a profession and PR as a professional helps earn that perception instead of manipulating it.
And that's a really good point that PR is not about manipulation, but it's about building that perception in the minds of customers or brands or businesses out there. So So, Ashish, now let's turn our attention to the specific arena you operate in so deeply, software as a service or SaaS. The SaaS market is relentless, product launches happen on a weekly basis, and the noise is deafening. Let's talk about the unique rules of engagement for PR in this world. So, my first question to you in this category would be, how does PR for a SaaS company differ from a traditional PR for a B2C or a B2B business? What unique challenges and opportunities exist?
That's a very important question, Aridhar, considering we have, as you rightly said, we have product launches happening globally and happening every week. It's important that PR notices this shift and notices the importance of making that noise every week, which is not overdone, which is not overselling, and which also instills confidence in the minds of the stakeholders of the SaaS product or SaaS company. The PR for a SaaS company, if we have to compare the traditional PR versus the current digital PR, I would say the PR for SaaS companies would definitely focus on minimalizing the complexities involved in the product. Okay. For you and me as a SaaS founder, it's very sensitive and we are all touchy feely about the product, right? We take pride in the product that we've built, in the product that we have that is going to change the world. However, the PR essentially should focus on how the complex technology, if at all there is simplified and how the PR impacts the long sales cycles that we see in the B2B SaaS space. Second is the PR campaign should emphasize on education. When I say education, it's not about how to use the product. It's about translating the tech value into business outcomes. If you are a CEO or a CIO or a CTO of an organization and you are evaluating my product, I would rather tell you how would you save dollars instead of telling you how great that line of code is, which is making that product great the way it is, right? So that's important. And that is, in my opinion, is also not selling the product. It's instead, it is deriving the value of the product for the stakeholders. And these stakeholders not just are limited to the key decision makers, they are also investors, there are also industry analysts, financial analysts, and also there are a lot of tech partners, there are a lot of integration partners which are involved in the development of that product journey. So it is important that we talk about them. It is important that we talk to them via the PR machinery. And I would say one challenge that what I've seen in the past few years that I've been in the PR profession when it comes to SaaS PR, it's a spokesperson, whether it is a CXO or an engineering person, they tend to use a lot of jargons. And it is a big turnoff for the journalist because the journalist is looking for the value that you as a SaaS company is bringing to the table when it comes for your customers. And the journalist was also looking for the value to for its readers when the story is published in the publication, right? So you need to be cognizant. When I say you, the spokesperson needs to be cognizant, and the PRs of the company need to be cognizant that the spokesperson does not use a lot of jargons when talking to a journalist. And finally, what I would say is PR for SaaS is less about selling the product, but it is more about sustaining a conversation. Now, when I say sustaining a conversation, one conversation translates technology into tangible business value. And this business value cannot be established in just one single conversation with the journalist or one single story published in a key publication. It needs to be consistently told and retold over a period of time.
So again, I really like that point wherein you said that for anyone out there, while you're talking about features, that's good, but you also need to showcase the value. Now, on the same lines is my next question: that in a crowded SaaS market, how do you help a company differentiate itself and create a compelling narrative that goes beyond just the product features?
Tech folks like a lot of short forms, abbreviations. I would say I'm just making it. I would say APB. APB stands for anchor the messaging, position the brand, and build a narrative. Now I'll explain this APB in a little further detail. I would say When I say anchor the messaging, right, it is the messaging should be talking about the customer impact. The messaging should talk about the value that product brings to the market. The messaging should talk about the problem, the industry problem that the product is solving or the service is solving. Okay. The messaging should not be talking about the capability. It is, in my opinion, if the story or if a if company is talking about capability, is borderline selling. Second, I said P for position the brand. Position the brand as a thought leader. And you rightly said this is a crowded SaaS market. And if you're not positioning your brand uniquely, or if you're not positioning your executive uniquely, it is very likely that you get lost in the crowd. So position the brand as a thought leader, addressing the industry's shifts, addressing the problems that industry is facing, and addressing how your product or service is solving or adapting to those shifts, I would say. How would you do this? You take a lot of use cases. You talk about a lot of historical data, evolutionary data, and how your product is built based on those use cases and data. Then you could also talk about the partnerships. And finally, build a narrative. Build a narrative which is consistent. Build a narrative which talks about the transformation. Build a narrative which talks about the evolutionary and revolutionary arc of the product and of the industry. Okay. And not just talk about the tools or the features of the product. It is important that the narrative resonates with what the customers slash stakeholders are looking for. And finally, what I would say is it, and as you said, it is a saturated SaaS market. Okay, and in this market, differentiation begins when you actually stop talking about what your product does and start talking about why the product matters to the